talking brain, enlightened minds, seeking out clues, seeing the world with the mind of the Lord, who see beyond the three-dimensionally. So, talking brain, ask the right questions, uncovers the blinds.
Hey everyone, welcome to
Souls Talking Brain.
It's been a little while since we've been with you.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. It's been, I think, almost a month since we've had our Souls Talking Brain show. A month almost, right?
At least.
At least. So, welcome back to us. And welcome back to you.
It's, well, you know, summer hours. Summer season. And the feeling is groovy. So, Souls Talking Brain, Radiating Love, both shows of Being Love TV channel, tend to take a bit of a hiatus during the summer. And we're a little bit more spontaneous with respect to the shows in the summertime than we are during the rest of the year. So we thank you all very, very much for tuning in today, for your patience as we've been away, and send forth blessings that during this little interlude you've all been enjoying a most remarkable start to quite the hot summer that we have been enjoying here, at least in Toronto.
Enjoying? I don't know about enjoying. Hot summer enjoying. Not so much the heat, because it's a little bit too much of a heat, but, you know, summer's been definitely enjoyable.
So we definitely hope that you have all been enjoying, and again are very blessed to be here with you today. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who are joining us, Alina's just going to very, very quickly let you know how you can actually be part of the show right now, right here, as we are doing the show today.
That's right. This is a live interactive show, which means that you, that's right, you get to share your voice. We open a forum here of a topic, and that we allow for everybody else to share their voice, their thoughts, their opinions through love on Being Love TV. Doing that, there's a plethora of ways to do that. On my right, actually, you should be seeing either on my right or underneath me, depending on if you're on Facebook or Ustream. You should see a social stream tab and a chat tab, which you can log in with either Twitter, Facebook, AIM, or MySpace. And then you'll be able to communicate with us while we see what you are saying and respond to you that way. And the chat stream is a Ustream account, and all you have to do is just sign up. It's free. Quick, it's fast, it's easy, and you'll be able to chat with us through the chat tab as well. And other means of sharing your voice is also to share the show while you're here, and spread it out. And you can do that by, you'll see them social media sharing icons underneath, and you should just click share and then send it all to your friends and have them come on over and share their voice as well.
Actually, in order to get to the sharing icons, you have to go right around where our Being Love TV icon is on Helene's boobie on screen now. And if you just put your mouse over the screen, the share will pop up.
I think otherwise they can see it right away. Yeah, it's just
it doesn't show.
Yeah, that's right. Because unless you put your mouse over
it. So put your mouse around Helene's boobie, which currently is where our Being Love TV logo is, and the share should show up, and then you can share it with all your friends. What can we say? It all comes from the heart, yeah?
I know, it's all from
which is all around the same area.
It's all here. That's right, all here.
So, and the breasts are the nourishment
yes.
for the babies. And it's how we share our nourishment with our children. And so this is how you share the nourishment of Being Love TV with all of your family and friends.
Okay, then.
Which is all synchronized. It's very lovely.
Right on.
Okay, you have an issue with that? What about what we're talking about today? How are you going to handle today's subject matter?
How am I going to handle today's
You're
subject?
getting all red and embarrassed about breastfeeding.
How am I going to handle this? Well, then let's get to it, darling. Our show today, which is coming up, polygamy. Polygamy, is it fear of commitment or of love-based consciousness?
Mm-hmm. And who's to say that those are the only two choices? You know, we only have so much space for a title.
There's only so much. Well, it is important to say that when we're talking about polygamy, that we're not talking about the sort of traditional religious-based polygamist. We're talking about polygamy as an individual who has the right to choose to live that lifestyle. So I just wanted to make that clear that that's what we are focusing on today on this show, on Soul Talking Brain show today.
In fact, just to very, very quickly give some foundational information with respect thereto, so we're all understanding. Polygamy was the norm. I think it was in the 1900s, around that time, that we were living until around 30 years old was considered to be really old to live until. And so in order to ensure that the population was populated, men had many wives, because a woman can only give birth once at a time, and essentially she can't give birth one after the other. There needs to be a certain amount of time in between each child. So in order to be able to provide for the population growth, you could not depend on the women that were in existence and the men that were in existence. There weren't enough men for women, and there weren't enough women to be able to keep getting pregnant one after the other. So men would have many wives because we needed, again, there wasn't as many men as there was women.
And then this way you had years ago, right?
No, it's about 100 years ago.
100 years ago.
Yeah, thousands of years ago was different. Like, we've been going in cycles.
100 years ago was not really that long ago.
No. Well, 1,000 years ago. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, yeah.
Sorry.
You would be going back to like biblical times, for example.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
No.
No.
No. No.
No.
No. Not that far.
No.
Back.
Okay.
At all.
Sometime in the past. Far. Okay.
No, it's not 1,000 years.
Not
1900 plus 100 is 2,000, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. My math is not off. It's about 100 years.
Okay. It just doesn't seem like, you know what I mean? It just doesn't seem like, it's not such a long time.
I know, but 50 years ago, there was no internet.
Right. True.
And 60 years ago, nobody was flying.
Right. Well,
so,
right.
There's been a lot of changes in the last 100 years.
Of course.
Including our lifespan. So it was being done for biological purposes and
procreation.
And so that's one facet of polygamy that existed for the survival of the race. Polygamists who today are part of a sect or a religious faction participate in polygamy because they are following what somebody else would call their own Bible, the rules of their Bible. This is the rules of their Bible. The rules of their Bible dictate that a man is supposed to have many wives, so on and so forth. It is based upon one man's interpretation of life itself that everybody else follows. Very much like Scientology, you have one man who has presented his thesis on life, and you've got all of these people following his ways of living life. That's not what we're talking about. Although, and in the same breath, it is what we're talking about, because what we're speaking to is the rush, if you will, that polygamy has been enjoying in there's so many names, I guess, New Age, alternative, underground, subculture, rising consciousness of people today. Polygamy is showing itself to be large aspect of the growing consciousness in today's culture that is occurring. If you want to make a break between traditional and new age, for example. So what we're talking about today is focusing more on what's happening today, as opposed to what may have happened 100 years ago and biological reasons as to why we would do it, or religious reasons as to why we would do it. We're talking about
just
making a conscious decision,
yeah.
A personal conscious decision in today's day and age for what you feel is right for you.
Mm-hmm.
And this decision being one that is based in the precepts of love versus fear consciousness.
Exactly.
So on that note, to present the side of polygamy in the love consciousness realm, did you want to...
in the love consciousness realm?
Well, from the perspective of somebody today making that choice, what, from their interpretation of polygamy and why they would choose polygamy and why it's coming up today as such a force in the growing, changing, consciously rising.
Yes, gotcha.
Communities.
I got it. I got it.
Okay.
It's right now the whole movement is love consciousness. There is a lot of change happening, and we are coming into a more of a awareness, more of the change, the positive change, the global change. That being said, we are also getting out of conditioned, the centuries and centuries of being conditioned to be taught certain ways of how we should be living and being, and etc. etc. And getting out of conditioned mindset is also one of the other things that people are doing, is to take a step forward in all aspects of life that we have been conditioned. For example, we've been conditioned the same way as when we are born into this world that, in the traditional society sense, saying that man and woman should get married, right, together and have children, and that's what you're conditioned. You're conditioned that it's
that's what family
equals, right?
That's the definition.
So then, of course, then we are deconditioning. We are getting outside of the conditioning, which is really, who is to say what can tell us how to live our lives and what is the right way, what is the wrong way, being that, if it's not killing somebody and hurting somebody or doing any, causing any pain towards somebody else, then why should that be seen as wrong or right? So then there's of course people who have been, going into this new age where, a lot more people are becoming more open about their sexuality. So then therefore the families have expanded into man and woman, and then just communal lifestyles, families in different forms. Now, intimacy on an intimate level of a physical, romantic, intimate relationship and family is also, we have been conditioned that, you get married and you're supposed to be with that one partner for the rest of your life. Okay. Now, how the more open choice of polygamy coming about is getting out of that and being able to be open to get past the boundaries, to get past the conditioning, to be which is being conditioned, getting past your ego, which is the biggest thing, is overcoming all of those things into be able to choosing the lifestyle of polygamy. Now, there's obviously many perspectives and many opinions and thoughts about that. So many different people say, well, if somebody is, and this can be true. I'm not saying it's not. It can be true for some people that, when they are partaking in polygamous relationship, is that, they're saying that this is, that I want to try and get out of the conditioning. So, and being more open to love and being more accepting and embracing of all. But in fact, there's a deep-rooted fear of committing to one specific person. So therefore, it's used as a means to sort of hide behind.
Okay, but yes.
That's
so
just one.
You're presenting somebody using polygamy as an excuse.
That's just So,
so
then
that
that's
they don't
just
have to face their fears. What we find is that what we're finding in our growing conscious communities is a little bit of what we would determine to be dangerous thinking. And it brings you to question where we stand today and how we got to where we got to today. When you look at constructs such as the government and the media, and other the healthcare system that's in place and the educational system that's in place. We have all of these systems that are in place that today you can hear, left, right, and center complaints about, and how could this be going on, and this is corrupt, and this sucks, and they're wanting to force us to do X, Y, and Z. And what we're starting to hear in those who are calling themselves revolutionaries, light weavers,
light workers,
people who are being the change, the example for the new world, so on and so forth, is that in order to transcend out of fear into love, you need to follow these specific rules. And so if you're not participating in polygamy, if you're not vegan 100,000%, if you're not meditating 20 minutes to 2 hours a day, if you're not doing yoga at least an hour a day, if you're not X, Y, and Z according to I don't know who thinks that they are in a position to be dictating these things, then you are not transcending out of fear into love. This is a problem. It's a very, very big problem.
Well, it's doing exactly what
we're
trying not to do.
Yes.
You know, when we are trying to get out of how authority has been conditioning us for centuries, and when we as ourselves coming into being the change and being the example, is when we're saying you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, is doing exactly what we're trying to get out of what somebody else is trying to tell us, and then saying, well, we're trying to do it this way. At the end of the day, you cannot tell somebody how they should be. You cannot do that. It's just it's hypocritical, and it goes against. It's contradicting. Period.
Being love is being love. It's being compassionate, understanding, accepting. And it is definitely not
judgmental.
One way of being. There are an infinite number of ways of being love. How could you possibly think that you know which way is the right way to be love? Who are you to think that your way is better than someone else's way? Somebody who is vegan, for example, and is telling other people how horrible it is that they're eating meat, and you're killing an animal, and you're taking life. Well, what do you think you're doing, sweetie? A plant is a living thing. And do you know whether or not it hurts the plant when you chop it into pieces? Just because it doesn't have 2 eyes, 2 noses, it doesn't make noise the way that we do. We don't know anything about plants to know whether or not it hurts them when we pluck from them. Mm-hmm. We know nothing about fruits and vegetables that when we bite into them, whether or not it has any kind of an effect on them. Just because they don't have the constructs that we have with respect to a brain, a spinal cord, etc., does not necessitate that they don't have pain. Feelings, that they don't feel pain. So where do you draw the line? And who is to say one is right and the other is wrong? Mm-hmm. So it's important, and we're bringing up polygamy because we're finding that in an effort to face our fears, to release ourselves of ego and judgment, there are a lot of people, especially younger people, who are still trying to figure out who they are and what they believe and what's good for them.
What they want.
Are being cajoled, misled, and otherwise made to feel less than if they are not participating in or feeling comfortable with polygamy. Which is not to say that we have anything against polygamy, because if polygamy is something that you feel really good about, then honey, enjoy.
It.
But to make somebody feel less than
because they're not,
they're not, is simply unacceptable and not loving at all.
Well, it's also the root of it, because it's, something in life, everything becomes sort of a trend, right? When there are healthy things, good things, bad things, whatever it is, they become a trend in this world. In this society, something becomes trend. Like, yoga has been existing for
centuries,
millennia, right? And now, more so in the last 20, maybe 15, maybe more 10 years, yoga has become more of a trend in a wider variety of people, different, more people of all kinds, of all types of backgrounds, not just specific mindset, have come to take on yoga, for example. So this is in the same way, certain things become a trend. So polygamy has come up a lot, more so, that hence why we're bringing it up, is that there are a lot of people who do feel sort of pressured and feel that they are made to feel less than because they don't, that they are not strong enough to withhold a polygamous relationship and to be that to welcome in the love-based consciousness.
Strong enough is yes. You're not able to let go of attachment.
But the whole point is in how in the New Age sense is seen is that yes. You're not supposed to. You're not supposed to have ownership. You're supposed to have an openness of respect and love, and to respect each aspect of the connection that you share with another individual, and that you have to be open to that. And so because the whole attachment is ego-based, and so we're trying to get out of ego-based mindset and getting into more of a love-based mindset, and so. There are multitudes of ways.
Isn't that presumptuous, though?
Yes.
Isn't that presumptuous, though? Somebody is defining love as sex. Because let me tell you, honey, there is nobody that I love more than my son. And I can give you 100,000 million% guarantee that there ain't no way that I am ever planning, going to, will, have sex with my child.
Well,
ain't happening.
Well, I don't think
and the other people that I really, really, really love are my family, whom, again, not happening.
But at the same time, it's not a token of that, I don't think it's considered like, this is your family. It's more based on somebody who's not obviously blood related, obviously.
No, but it's
the friend.
Because they state that in order to be able to express your love freely.
Oh, is that what is said?
Right? It's what you just said yourself. Right? You're wanting
you
to be able to freely express your love openly.
Yes.
Well, guess what?
Yes.
I'm freely expressing my love openly right now.
Well, openly expressing your love has boundaries the same way as it has every single thing has. Everything has limitations. Everything has limits. There's a fine line. There's a fine line with every single thing that you look at, that you experience in life. Fine line.
And then on the flip side of that is if you're wanting, from just this one specific argument, we're not speaking about all polygamists, by the way. We're speaking about people who are pushing.
It's people who are pushing the idea to somebody else,
on someone else, and making them feel less than.
Yeah.
So then, why am I not making love to every single person that I meet?
Yeah. Well,
because if I have to be open and free with my love. Then there's a lot of people I need to start making some phone calls to.
The point of it is, coming into back to what, like our title, for example, is fear of commitment or love-based consciousness. There is many people who have different values and beliefs and opinions and perspectives on life, and every single one of those individuals and us in this entire world is entitled to every single one of them. To be able to get into a love-based consciousness is to never judge someone else because of how they're choosing to live, and never throw your own ideas and make them feel less than because they are not doing
what you think is right.
That
Let us
isn't
please
true.
make a disclaimer here. We are speaking about actions that people take that are causing no harm to self or others. Obviously, if somebody is taking advantage of a young child like a pedophile,
that's just not right.
Then obviously that's not correct. So
anyone that's getting hurt is not right. Yeah.
People's actions that are causing no harm to self or to others is none of our business to be getting involved in or to be judging.
That's right. Exactly. As long as you are causing no harm unto self or unto others,
then who are you to say that my choice is right or wrong? Mm-hmm. And who are you to say that it's such a thinly defined barometer for expressing one's love? Mm-hmm. If that were the case, I mean, the definition of family itself has completely changed
yes.
throughout the years. Mm-hmm. If we were going by what other people said, then you and I would not be who you and I are today, because we would be too afraid. Mm-hmm. Right? Because it's just not, we are two single women who are choosing to live together. We have chosen to be a family, and yet we are not intimately partnered. Mm-hmm. Now, according to some people who think that polygamy is the transcended expression of love, I would say, well, our relationship is the transcended expression of love because it goes beyond intimate expression to an authentic love that is of the person as opposed to how this person will sexually satisfy me.
It's the expression of love.
It is love in its purest form.
The expression of love comes in many, many forms, and obviously the choices of the people is how it is. It's the way that we are seeing the development of the love movement and the development of how the process, it's the development and the growth of the more love-based community and the more consciously based community around the world coming together through means, and yes, it's all beautiful in the sense that it's all healthy things. For example, what you're eating is one of the ways that it's incorporated. So what you're eating and how you are treating the nature and earth, and these are conscious ways of being which are all very good. It's going and it's growing in multitude and layers and layers and layers of layers and layers of yourself. So first starting off with what you're eating. So for example, you're not eating any animal. Then it started off going into how you are growing the food, into what kind of music you're listening to, into what kind of clothes that you're wearing, into all of a sudden how you are living in your lifestyle, how you're thinking, how you're communicating, and then going into relationships, and then all of a sudden getting into a point where everything is becoming more and more and more and more open and being imposed on others. So this is what we are bringing more, like saying that this is the way it should be. Otherwise, you're not a conscious individual. You're not an aware being. If you are one aspect of you, you're not doing the right way. For example,
there are certain things with respect to food, and music that is not a personal choice. It simply is what it is. If you are using genetically modified foods, then you are eating foods that have pesticides that have been genetically modified into them. That is unhealthy for you.
Yes,
that's not a choice of, do I want to be fear-based or love-based? It's, do I want to be healthy or do I want to kill myself?
Yes, these are different.
Listening to music that is the going with the hertz, which I think it's 440. I can't remember, but most instruments are tuned to the wrong tonality, to the wrong harmony. That does not vibrate well within us. There is no question about that.
I know.
One of them creates anger, the other one creates love. Polygamy versus monogamy versus any other kind of a relationship is, each one has its positives and its negatives. It's not the same thing as saying, well, I'm going to eat a Monsanto GMO food versus a non-one. I wonder, they're both good for me. They're not. Yeah. They are not, by the way. Anything that's GMO'd, any Monsanto seeds is bad for you. Bad, bad, bad. Okay? No questions. No questions.
Yeah.
Monogamy versus polygamy, living a communal lifestyle versus a nuclear family lifestyle. There is neither to say that this one is better or this one is worse.
Yeah,
it's what's good for you. So at the end of the day, what we're trying to say is that going from fear to love consciousness for the individual is asking yourself what feels good to you. And not worrying that this person is telling you, well, in order to be loved, you have to make these choices. Or this person is saying to you, in order to be saved and go to heaven, you need to make these choices. It's asking yourself, what feels good to me?
Yeah. In some ways, it can get really confusing for some people because, they might think that they want to be getting out of the conditions-based society.
Absolutely.
And so then they get confused. It can be confusing. Well, how do I know if this is really what I want?
So research.
And so then this is
Take a journey.
So, this is what's feeling good for me right now. But then at the same time, is this what I was conditioned to think? So then, with respect to polygamy and coming either from fear of commitment or love-based or going towards love-based consciousness and exploring the idea of polygamy is to truly, truly sit with that one.
Excuse me.
Before deciding what is what. Because, you know what? At the end of the day, there are so many things that we are conditioned. But there are also other things that, you simply come into the world and you either like it or you don't.
With what you were saying, for example...
and that's just your choice. And that's a choice that somebody makes.
When presented with the opportunity, when it's brought into your life, into your consciousness, and someone says, well, this is what I would like and this is what I am open to, and so you have now been given the opportunity. If it is something that you are thinking, well, maybe I am operating based upon conditioning that is based within fear, then explore.
Explore it, yeah.
Explore. Yeah. It's the same thing. Yeah. When my son was born, I'm even now as a vegan, I am a lover of cheese. That's just how I've always been.
I'm a lover of cheese.
Love it. Doesn't love me, cheese. But I love it. My son, from the time that he was old enough to eat and from the first time that I gave him cheese and growing up, just did not like cheese. I could not for the life of me understand how I had a child who did not love cheese. I mean, really, melted cheese. Okay, moving on. But my kid really did not like cheese, and today he's still very, very picky when it comes to cheese. But he did try it, and he tried all different kinds of cheese. He tried it shredded. He tried it in a little square. He tried it melted. He tried it all the different. Not a lover of the cheese. No. Me, lover of the cheese. Not all, but a lot. Have tried many, not all, but a lot of them. And so that's how I discovered what I like, what I don't like, as well as my son, who was born, like that's how he was, the same way that that's how I am. Some people are naturally attracted to, feel fulfilled by, and are happy in a polygamist relationship. Some people are happy in a monogamous relationship. Some people are happy living nuclear family, some people communally. Some people don't know, and until you try it out, you don't know. But to tell somebody that this is the way you gotta be is simply not appropriate. Yeah. It's not being love, and you are going against what the entire transcendent movement is all about. Is all about. You are taking a stance of those whom we are seeking to distance ourselves from.
Yeah. And again, fear exists in all of us, and fear comes up in many ways and shapes and forms, and sometimes we don't even know it's there, and then, later on in life it comes up and it's there. With respect to polygamy, to hide behind the fear is not good for you or for anyone else in the long run.
Hide behind what fear? I don't understand what you just said.
Like going into polygamy, choosing that because you want to choose to be open, for example, but then doing it because it's coming from a place of fear of commitment. Doing it for the wrong reasons.
So you're not talking about somebody who is choosing polygamy because they've been told to. You're talking about somebody who's choosing polygamy because they themselves are afraid of monogamy.
Yeah. So then, but convincing themselves otherwise, because with fear we all do that. Every single one of us does that. When it comes to fear, we deny until we get to a point where there's so many opportunities that we are presented, and then constantly having to face, and then it just gets worse and worse and harder and crazier until we face it, right? Until we say, okay, I acknowledge you. You're here. Let's deal with this. As you should, and as everyone should with their fears. But in this respect, to do that with can easily be hidden from the individual, because like I said, it can be
what can be hidden.
Well, it
their
can be
fear
hidden.
Of commitment.
Is it because of is it somebody who is doing it? Is it because they have a fear of commitment, or is it really that this is something that they are wanting to transcend into opening love?
So it can be. What do you recommend?
Yes. What do you recommend to find that out? It's healthy. It's healthy to know for the self that you are doing what you're doing for the right reasons. Just with anything in life.
So what do you recommend?
I am not sure.
Well, what would you recommend to somebody who is in a state where they are making choices based upon their fears, and they're not really sure that they're making those choices? What would you say to that person?
Well, obviously, with every single thing, you paying attention to the choices that you're making and the actions that you're taking, and how that is making you feel in that moment. So when you're paying attention,
that was very obnoxious.
It was very obnoxious. If you are paying attention to how you are feeling in the moment of an experience, and this goes for everything, of course, not just about being in relationships, but for everything as well. If you're paying attention to how you're feeling, then you have to take a moment and acknowledge that feeling, and then see if that feeling is coming from is that how it's making you feel? Is it making you feel serene? Is it making you feel good? Or is it making you feel empowered? What are the feelings that you're feeling? And then go with that. But these, and at the same time, you have to continuously do that, because there are certain things that can come up that you were okay with like 5 seconds ago. And then all of a sudden you're not okay, 5 seconds later. So
it all comes down to listening to yourself.
Being truthful to yourself.
It all comes down to being truthful.
And trusting only
self-respect,
you. Trusting yourself.
Self-love.
Yeah.
Being a conscious, active listener of yourself. We live in a world where there are so many possible ways of being. And we see examples of those ways of being on a regular basis. Granted, some people don't see 3/4 of the ways that other people on this planet live.
Yeah.
And likely most of us don't see 3/4 of the ways of how others live on this planet. But trust me when I say that there are a plethora of ways, an infinite number of ways of expressing what it is to be human. The most important thing is that the way that you're choosing for yourself is the way that makes yourself feel the best about the expressions that you are participating in. And so it is to yourself that you are respecting your choices.
You just reminded me. It's also if a specific experience or situation is either bringing the best out of you or the worst out of you is another thing to pay attention to. And, and then, yes, and that could be argued as well furthermore. People could say, well, then that's an opportunity for you to transcend the worst part that is coming out.
Right, and then I can turn around and say, you can transcend
but it doesn't
the
have
worst
to be
part that's coming out of you by getting in there and becoming the worst part and working through and fighting fighting and until you finally give up or let go or give in or just succumb to it and become it more so. Or you can just not put yourself through the suffering. Because if something is making you that uncomfortable, then maybe you should respect the fact that it's making you uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, eating the cheese. My kid doesn't like cheese. Should I take the cheese and jam it down his throat? Because according to me, back then, cheese was one of the best sources of protein. And so you better like this, you better eat it, and make him suffer until he was able to transcend his lack of love for cheese. Or do I respect that he simply doesn't like it, and his attraction to cheese is less than his repulsion, and therefore to respect that he is repulsed by the cheese and not make him have to go and do battle, but instead the response in facing something that is bothering is simply to not participate in it.
It's interesting.
You can go either way. One of them is quite difficult. The other one is quite easy.
Yeah.
And in both cases, if you transcend it, if you're not dealing with any kind of suffering, then I think it's pretty much taken care of, no?
It's also interesting because, you can also look at something that somebody could fear or somebody doesn't like, right? Because you can say, oh, I just really don't like that, or I'm really scared of that. So having to pay attention to in this subject that we're talking about today, as well as in anything, is to recognize and to see the difference between.
That's the second part of the title.
The difference between, am I not liking it, or am I afraid of it? Because when you don't like something and when you're afraid of something, it can feel like it's the same feeling. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It can seem like it's the same. So is this my fear because I'm afraid of trying something, or I just don't like it? Do you know what I mean? Because that's two very important things to
right, but then you have people that have tried it and they simply don't like it.
Well, that's just it. Facing your fear is when you're going into it and you're trying. You try it out. So
you don't like it.
You don't like it. So
then why do you have to fight with yourself to try and like something that you don't like? Because somebody else is telling you, but that's the way that you need to be if you want to love.
Exactly. So,
well, I'm not being very loving to self if I'm forcing myself to do something that I'm not having a good time doing.
On that note, we're just going to take 1 minute of sharing the love. We'll be right back.
Share the love.
Oh, so beautiful. So beautiful. Share the love, share the love, share the love. So, this is how you can share the love. This show is done every second Wednesday.
Week. Yep.
Unless it's summertime and, we might disappear for a little bit.
La la la.
La la la.
Fairies must play too,
That's right. And you can do that by sharing
Goddesses.
The message, by sharing this video. You can share the URL. You can share the video. You can embed the video. You can put it, if you have a website, you can take... on the screen right now on Ustream, it actually says share. So if you click on share, it gives you choices. You could share it on any of your social networking accounts. Therefore, you are spreading the love and sharing. And other ways you can do it is you can also embed the actual video on your website as well. And just tell everybody about us. It'd be so nice. It'd be so great to share the love we appreciate. And therefore,
And therefore do that which we are here to do, which is transcend out of fear consciousness into love consciousness.
That's right.
Which is the point of all of this. Aline and I do the shows that we do here on Being Love TV for the benefit of all. It is done out of our wholly devoted love to everyone, for everyone, and for that which we know we are all capable of experiencing. So when you share the show with all that you know, you are assisting others to come into awareness of the fact that there are choices out there beyond the parameters that we've been presented with. Mm-hmm. That we live in a system currently that has a certain government system. We live in a world that has a certain system by which it operates. Mm-hmm. But just because it operates by this specific system doesn't mean it's the only system. It definitely hasn't been the only system by which we've been operating, and it doesn't have to be the system by which we continue to operate. Mm-hmm. Today's show, speaking about polygamy versus monogamy, is going into changes that are occurring currently within the system that we are living in, and ensuring that we are not becoming systematic within the changes that we are seeking to implement. The changes that we are seeking to implement are changes that are embracing. They are changes that are accepting, that recognize the diversity of whom we are as a species. That there is not just one way of being. There is not just one way that is the best way of being a human being. There's not one race that's better than other races. There's not one religion that's better than other religions. There are a multitude of ways of being. And it is finding the ways that are best for you. Not because someone else has told you this is the best way, even though they're presenting it mm-hmm. as the enlightened, transcended way to be. If someone is telling you that there's only one way to be, run. Even if they present themselves or look like a guru or a yogi or some kind of major, spiritually enlightened being, if they are telling you there's only one way, run, sweetie, as fast as your feet can take you in the opposite direction.
Trusting self is extremely important in any situation, whether it is about, wanting to choose to live a specific lifestyle, wanting to go into any different kinds of relationships that for example, that we were talking about here today. Trust yourself. Trust how you feel. Trust what it is. Now, and it's extremely important because it can be as clear as water, clear as a blue sky, clear on a clear day. If it's not harming you and it's not harming anyone else, this is really important. The choice becomes easier. The choice becomes clearer. Your way and your preference and so on and so forth becomes a lot clearer. Pay attention and trust yourself. The only way I can say, or I can explain how to be able to trust yourself in a manner that is, because how can somebody say, how can I trust myself? Well, I don't know. How can I trust myself? Well, very simple. This is something that I've just used. It's something that I've, that might be easy and it might be assisting and it might be helpful as it was for me. Every day we wake up, we go on our business, we go on our days, and then we go to sleep, right? Well, when we go to sleep, we don't worry or fear or, have any second thoughts or doubts or even have the thought even existing in our mind that when we wake up in the morning, the sky is not going to be there. We trust it. We don't question it. We know it. We don't even think about it. That is trusting yourself. So whatever situations that you are thinking about, I brought up the sky. It could be, a situation with your work. It could be a relationship. It could be whatever. If you are not questioning and trusting, of course, that it is that trusting that it will benefit you and everyone, and trusting that it's not going to cause any harm, you just trust it, then you know you've kind of opened up a way to be able to sort of make it on a more of a daily opening to be able to trust self. Trusting self is better than trusting anybody else or anything else in this world.
And you do it by paying attention to how you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So in questioning, how do I trust myself? How are you feeling? If you're making a choice and you're not feeling good about the choice that you're making, then trust in the feeling that you're having. If you're making a choice and you're not sure, then explore it. You don't need to make decisions like this. Nobody's holding a gun to your head. Take your time. If you're not sure, getting back to our subject of today, if polygamy or monogamy, communal living, nuclear family, extended living, intentional living, traditional living is for you or not for you, then explore.
Mm-hmm.
Try it out.
Mm-hmm.
Take a little nibble here and
Mm-hmm.
there. But see how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
If it feels good, follow through. If it doesn't,
don't follow through.
Try something else.
Exactly.
This is trusting you. It doesn't mean that you have all the answers.
Well,
it doesn't mean that you know that X, Y, and Z is going to happen according to A, B, and C at 1, 2, 3 on D, E, and F. It means that you're doing your best to live a life that brings you bliss. And if you come upon something that doesn't, that you're paying attention and doing what you can to divert, take care of, heal, release, allow for yourself to make choices that do bring you bliss.
And last but not least, there is no label. There's no label or specific right way to ever choose a love-based consciousness. Love-based consciousness is love that is not, if it's hurting somebody else or it's hurting yourself, that's not love. So love-based consciousness, move towards that. Be aware in what you're choosing the tools that you're using to reach the love-based consciousness. Know that it is within you and within every single individual and every single thing on this planet. It's already there.
One of the things that I really love about our community, that Aline and I are extraordinarily blessed to be a part of, which is an international community around the world. Conscious light weavers dedicated to transcending fear consciousness into love consciousness, which is really, whether you're dedicated to it or not, it's happening. So don't worry about it. It's going to happen whether you want it to or you don't want it to. Cosmically, things are aligning that we're all going to be catapulted into love,
the realization of oneness,
whether we want to be or not. However, for those of us who are consciously aware, who are taking the steps to usher it in and welcome it and allow it consciously, and those who are part of our community, I must say, so unbelievably grateful are Aline and I to all of the wonderful earth angels divine, the gods and goddesses, priestesses and priests, elves and fairies that are part of our community, because they recognize the diversity. They don't just recognize it, they celebrate it. They celebrate that there are an infinite number of ways of being love, that there are an infinite number of ways of expressing love, and that the focus is not on the details, but on the grander picture, which is the love, the subtle level from where you are coming from, the feeling, the intention. And there are so many beautiful, wonderful ways of being that.
So many.
Yes. And so we are most deeply grateful to our community, who is a most inspiring example to us as well as to everyone else. An inspiration, motivation, affirmation, confirmation in everything that we are doing as light weavers being love.
And on that note, here on Being Love TV, that you've been watching Soul's Talking Brain Show, I'm Alina Hanesian.
I'm Ronnie Lipstein, and we are the double goddess of Soul's Talking Brain on Being Love TV. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Maybe. But definitely very soon.
Definitely soon.
And potentially next Friday on Radiating Love, right here on Being Love TV. Blessedly be.
Souls, talking brain, enlightened minds, seeking out truths, seeing the world with the mind of those who see beyond the three-dimensionally. Souls, talking brain, ask the right questions, uncovers the blinds. Souls, talking brain, enlightening minds, oh yeah, seeking out truth.